أجمعين وبعد يروي الشيخان في متفقا عليه عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال خطبنا النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم فقال. The hadith tonight collection both Imam Bukhari and Muslim narrated to us by Abu Hurairah, and this is today we move on to a new theme. Talk about Hajj for the next couple of weeks until Eid basically, and then we kind of move on to something afterward other than that, but I'll just talk about Hajj and maybe narrate to you a number of things he said alayhi salatu wasalam regarding Hajj itself, maybe aspects of his own Hajj because he did it once alayhi salatu wasalam, and maybe the importance of the 10 days once we come closer to that point. So this hadith, Abu Hurairah says the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam gave a khutbah, and he gave this khutbah the day Hajj became obligatory, and Hajj became obligatory that last year, in the 10th year of Hijrah. It wasn't before that. Hajj has always been a part of every prophetic tradition. Adam built the Kaaba and performed the first Hajj, and since then all the prophets have performed some form of pilgrimage. And Ibrahim alayhi salam rebuilt the Kaaba, and then أذن في الناس بالحج يأتوك رجالا. So that was established a long time before. But when it became an obligation upon Muslims was the last year of his hijrah, of his life alayhi salatu wasalam. Reason why he only performed one Hajj. And when it became obligatory, he stood and gave a khutbah. فقال أيها الناس قد فرض الله عليكم الحج فحجوا. O people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made obligatory upon you performing Hajj or performing the pilgrimage, so perform the pilgrimage, perform Hajj. فقال رجل يا رسول الله في كل عام. So a guy stood up and said, Ya Rasulullah, every year? And only recently did I start understanding these ahadith. Only recently did I start understanding the Prophet ﷺ's frustration with these things. Where someone stands up, interrupts, and then asks a question that he didn't need to ask, that was only going to bring difficulty. So I asked every year. If I wanted it every year, I would have said so, but I didn't. So why ask? But he asked anyway. قال فسكت عليه الصلاة والسلام. Didn't say anything. فكررها ثلاثا. The guy asked 3 times. He wouldn't stop. فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم لو قلت نعم لوجبت ولما استطعتم. If I said yes, it would have become obligatory, and no one would have been able to do it. قال ثم سكت. Then he was quiet for a second عليه الصلاة والسلام, probably trying not to strangle this gentleman. ثم قال أيها الناس ذروني ما تركتكم. Leave me for as long as I leave you. Like when I leave something open, leave it and leave me. Don't ask me questions. فإنما هلك من كان قبلكم بكثرة سؤالهم واختلافهم على أنبيائهم فما أمرتكم به فأتوا منه ما استطعتم وما نهيتكم عنه فانتهوا. So people, know that the nations before you, they only met their demise because they would continuously argue and ask and go into details with their prophets when they didn't have to. So whatever I tell you to do, do your best to achieve it. What I tell you don't do it. And this is where he gave this. You've heard this hadith before. This is where he gave it. It's when he told people perform Hajj, and some guy stood up and said, every year, Ya Rasulullah. Why? He said Hajju. If it was going to be every year for sure, he would have said that. There's a reason why he didn't say these things, alayhi salatu wasalam. The reason is that so Islam can be what it is today, so that scholars can go back and take all this evidence and process it, and we can end up with a deen that is wide, that has difference of opinion, that has rahmah within it. So he was يا الذين آمنوا لا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تسؤكم وإن تسألوا عنها حين ينزل القرآن تبد لكم عفى الله عنها. The Quran tells you don't ask him, leave him. What he says is what he was told to say. Don't ask. Don't go after. He can explain it. You can ask now. That's fine. But even now, I find don't. just don't. ويروي الإمام أحمد وأبو داود عن ابن عباس بسند صحيح أن الأقرع بن حابس قال يا رسول الله الحج مرة في العمر أم كل عام. The Aqra bin Habis at one point came during Hajj and said, Ya Rasulullah, so this Hajj, is it every year or is it once in a lifetime? فقال عليه الصلاة والسلام قال بل هو مرة في العمر فمن زاد فهو تطوع. Meaning it's once in a lifetime. If you do it any extra times, then it's considered as a nafila or a recommended or an optional or an extra act of worship. So he did point it out عليه الصلاة والسلام later on. But he was trying to explain a point that once he says something, just At that time. Now it's different, obviously. We have to know the details. But then there was a reason for why عليه الصلاة والسلام asked for this. Is because if he were to give if he were to answer these questions and give the best practice for everything, then we would end up with a very difficult deen in terms of practice. But he didn't عليه الصلاة والسلام. He made a point of it. يروي الإمامان البخاري ومسلم كل في صحيحه عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال: خطبنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم فقال: أيها الناس قد فرض الله عليكم الحج فحجوا. فقال رجل: يا رسول الله أكل عام؟ فسكت فكررها ثلاثة فقال: لو قلت نعم لوجبت ولما استطعتم. ثم سكت ثم قال: أيها الناس ذروني ما تركتكم فإنما هلك من كان قبلكم بكثرة سؤالهم واختلافهم على أنبيائهم فما أمرتكم به فأتوا منه ما استطعتم وما نهيتكم عنه فانتهوا. صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So the ritual is now obligatory. We'll talk about it more inshallah over the next few nights. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala.